AITA for reporting my mom and her boyfriend to the police after they stole my $12,000 savings? Before we got to the story, I plan to give away 100 USD to whoever has the best opinion regarding this matter. So stay tuned, and I'll announce the winner in the few next videos. You only have to post your opinion on the comment below and consider to like and subscribe so that you'll not miss the announcement and many other future giveaway. Thanks, and back to the story. I, 24F, never thought I'd be in a position where I'd have to ask this question, but recent events have left me questioning everything I thought I knew about family, trust, and doing the right thing. Let me start from the beginning to give you a full picture of the situation. I grew up in a single-parent household. My dad left when I was just a baby, and my mom raised me on her own. For most of my childhood, it was just the two of us against the world. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. It wasn't always easy, but we had each other, and that seemed to be enough. As I got older, I started to notice that Mom had a pattern of getting into relationships with less than stellar guys. They never lasted long, but each breakup seemed to leave her more desperate. Companionship. I tried to be supportive, but it was hard watching her go through this cycle over and over again. Things changed dramatically about 2 years ago when Mom met Derek. At first, he seemed different from her usual type. He had a steady job as a car salesman, dressed well, and was always polite to me. Mom was head over heels, and for a while, I was hopeful that maybe she had finally found someone worthy of her. However, as the months went by, I started to notice some red flags. Derek would make jokes about how much money Mom spent or how she needed to pull her weight more in the relationship. He started suggesting that she quit her job because he could take care of her. Mom, desperate to make the relationship work, started to change herself to please him. Meanwhile, I had been working hard to build a life for myself. After high school, I got a job at a local factory and have been working there for the past 6 years. It's not glamorous work, but it pays decently, and I've always been good at saving money. My goal was to save up enough for a down payment on a small house of my own. I kept my savings in a dedicated account, separate from my everyday checking account. By pinching pennies and working overtime whenever I could, I managed to save up $12,000. It wasn't enough for a house yet, but it represented years of hard work and sacrifice. I was proud of what I had accomplished and felt like I was on the right track to achieving my dreams. About 6 months ago, Mom and Derek's relationship started to get rocky. He lost his job at the car dealership. He claimed he was unfairly fired, but I suspect there was more to the story, and suddenly their financial situation became strained. Mom had quit her job at Derek's insistence, so they were relying solely on his unemployment benefits and some odd jobs he picked up here and there. One day, about 3 months ago, Mom came to me in tears. She told me that Derek had a business opportunity that could solve all their problems, but they needed some capital to get started. She asked if I could loan them some money, promising to pay me back with interest once the business took off. I was hesitant. I asked for more details about this business opportunity, but Mom was vague, saying only that it involved buying and reselling merchandise. When I pressed for more information, she got defensive and accused me of not trusting her. Against my better judgment, I agreed to loan them $2,000 from my savings. I made Mom sign a simple IOU, thinking it would at least give me some protection. She promised to pay me back within 2 months. 2 months came and went with no repayment. Every time I brought it up, Mom would make excuses or change the subject. Derek started avoiding me altogether, leaving the room whenever I came over to their apartment. Last week, everything came to a head. I logged into my online banking to check my balance, planning to treat myself to a nice dinner after a particularly grueling week at work. To my horror, I discovered that my savings account had been completely drained. All $12,000 gone. In a panic, I called the bank. They informed me that the money had been withdrawn via several large transfers over the past week. The transfers were authorized using my online banking credentials. My heart sank as I realized what must have happened. A few weeks ago, I had logged into my account on Mom's computer when I was visiting her. I must not have logged out properly, and she had access to all my banking information. Shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief, I drove to Mom and Derek's apartment. When I confronted them, the truth came out in a messy, tearful confession. Derek's business opportunity had been a gambling scheme. He convinced Mom that he had a foolproof system to win big at an underground casino. They had blown through their own money and the $2,000 I had loaned them. Desperate to recoup their losses, they had taken the rest of my savings, convinced they could win it all back and more. Needless to say, they lost everything. I was in shock. I couldn't believe that my own mother, the woman who raised me, who taught me the value of hard work and saving, would betray me like this. Derek was unapologetic, arguing that family should help family, and that I was selfish for having so much money saved up while they were struggling. Mom was more remorseful, crying and begging for forgiveness. She swore she would find a way to pay me back, but given that she was unemployed and now in debt herself, I knew that was unlikely to happen anytime soon, if ever. I left their apartment in a daze, my mind reeling. Over the next few days, I went through a roller coaster of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and finally, resolve. I realized that if I didn't take action, I would never see that money again. More than that, Mom and Derek would face no consequences for their actions, potentially leaving them free to do this to someone else in the future. After much soul-searching, I decided to file a police report. I provided all the evidence I had: bank statements, the signed IOU for the initial $2,000 loan, and text messages where Mom had asked for money. The police took my statement and said they would investigate. Word of my actions spread quickly through our family and social circle. Opinion is sharply divided. Some people, including my best friend and a couple of my aunts, support my decision. They argue that what Mom and Derek did was not just a betrayal, but a serious crime, and that they need to face the consequences of their actions. Others, including my grandmother and some family friends, are horrified that I would turn my own mother in to the police. They insist that family matters should be handled privately, and that involving law enforcement will only make things worse. My grandmother, in particular, has been calling me daily, alternating between guilt-tripping me and pleading with me to drop the charges. Mom has been leaving tearful voicemails, begging me to reconsider. She says that if this goes to court, she could face jail time. She swears she'll find a way to pay me back if I just give her some time. Derek, on the other hand, has been sending me angry, threatening messages, calling me ungrateful, and warning me that I'll regret tearing this family apart. I'm standing firm in my decision so far, but I'd be lying if I said all of this wasn't taking a toll on me. I've lost sleep, my performance at work is suffering, and I find myself constantly second-guessing my choice. On one hand, $12,000 represents years of my life. It was my safety net, my future, my dream of homeownership. It wasn't just money, but a physical representation of my hard work and sacrifices. The fact that my own mother would steal that from me feels like the ultimate betrayal. On the other hand, she is still my mom. Despite her flaws and poor choices, she did raise me on her own and made many sacrifices for me when I was growing up. The thought of her potentially going to jail because of my actions makes me feel sick to my stomach. I'm also worried about the long-term consequences of my decision. If Mom does end up with a criminal record, it will make it even harder for her to get back on her feet. And I fear this rift in our family may never heal. Some relatives have already told me they'll never forgive me if I go through with the prosecution. So, Reddit, I turn to you for perspective. AITA for reporting my mom and her boyfriend to the police after they stole my life savings? Should I have tried harder to handle this within the family? Is there a better way to resolve this that I'm not seeing? I'm really struggling with this decision and could use some outside input. Some additional points to consider. I have no other savings or emergency fund now. All my financial plans and goals have been derailed. Mom and Derek are still together despite everything. Derek seems to have convinced Mom that their actions were justified. I'm worried about Mom's safety with Derek, given his manipulative behavior, but she refuses to consider leaving him. The police investigation is ongoing, and I'm not sure what the eventual charges or penalties might be. I'm considering seeking therapy to deal with the emotional fallout from all of this, but I'm worried about the cost now that my savings are gone. Some people have suggested I sue Mom and Derek in civil court instead of pursuing criminal charges. I'm not sure if this is a viable option or if it would be any less damaging to our family relationships. I'm really at a loss here. Any advice or perspective would be greatly appreciated. Am I the a-hole?